The massive screen in the United Earth Defense Force headquarters flickered to life, displaying an image that would forever change human history. Admiral James Walker stood with his hands clasped behind his back, his weathered face illuminated by the harsh glow of the alien transmission. The being on the screen wasn't what anyone had expected for humanity's first contact. No large eyes. No gray skin. Instead, a towering figure covered in what appeared to be metallic scales looked down at them with glowing red sensors where eyes should have been. People of Earth, the creature spoke in perfect English, its voice carrying an artificial undertone that made it clear it was using some form of translator. I am the High Commander of the Dominion, ruler of 70% of what you call the Milky Way. Your planet has been monitored for the past 50 years, and we have determined you are now advanced enough to be given a choice. The room remained silent. Military officers, political leaders, and scientists from around the world watched with bated breath. Your options are simple, the High Commander continued. Submit to the Dominion as a client species, or face extinction. You have shown promise in your development, but you are centuries behind our advancement. Resistance would be unfortunate. Admiral Walker stepped forward. At 60 years old, he had seen his share of conflicts, but nothing could have prepared him for this moment. Yet his voice didn't waver as he responded. And what exactly does becoming a client species entail? He asked, keeping his tone neutral despite the anger building inside him. The alien's mechanical laugh echoed through the chamber. You will be granted access to our technology, our knowledge, our protection. In return, you will serve the Dominion. Your resources, your workforce, your military, all will belong to the greater empire. This is a generous offer. Most species are simply conquered. Behind Walker, General Maria Ross gripped the edge of her desk until her knuckles turned white. The President of the United Nations Security Council wiped sweat from his forehead. The choice before them seemed impossible, slavery or death. But Walker had noticed something during the transmission. Something in the way the alien spoke, in the way it presented itself. The Dominion, for all its power, was rigid, uniform. And if there was one thing humanity had learned through its own history, it was that uniformity had its weaknesses. High Commander, Walker said, standing straighter. Humanity has received your message. And on behalf of Earth's unified defense forces, I have a response for you. He paused, allowing himself a small smile. No. The alien sensors flashed brighter. Perhaps I was unclear. No, you were perfectly clear, Walker interrupted. You want us to kneel. To give up everything that makes us human, to become another cog in your machine. He took another step forward. But humanity doesn't kneel. We don't submit. And we certainly don't surrender to bullies, no matter how big they are. The High Commander's metallic features shifted in what might have been surprise. You would choose extinction over elevation. Your species is even more primitive than we thought. Maybe, Walker agreed. But we're also something you clearly don't understand. Free. And we'll stay that way. The alien ruler was silent for a long moment. You have 30 days to reconsider your foolish decision. When our fleet arrives, they will either accept your submission, or begin the cleansing. Choose wisely, humans. The transmission cut off, leaving the room in darkness. Immediately, voices erupted in panic and argument. But Walker turned to face the assembled leaders, his expression determined. Ladies and gentlemen, he said, his voice cutting through the chaos. We have work to do. The Dominion thinks they know humanity. They think they understand us. But they've made a crucial mistake. He looked each person in the room in the eye. They've underestimated us. And in 30 days, they're going to learn exactly what humanity does when backed into a corner. As the room erupted into action, Walker allowed himself a grim smile. The Dominion had given them a choice between submission and extinction. But humanity was about to give them a third option. Defiance. And if there was one thing humans excelled at, it was defying the impossible. The clock was ticking, and humanity's greatest challenge, and perhaps its finest hour, was about to begin. A long moment. You have 30 days to reconsider your foolish decision. When our fleet arrives, they will either accept your submission, or begin the cleansing. Choose wisely, humans. The transmission cut off, leaving the room in darkness. Immediately, voices erupted in panic and argument. But Walker turned to face the assembled leaders, his expression determined. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, his voice cutting through the chaos. "We have work to do. The Dominion thinks they know humanity. They think they understand us. But they've made a crucial mistake." He looked each person in the room in the eye. "They've underestimated us. And in 30 days, they're going to learn exactly what humanity does when backed into a corner." As the room erupted into action, Walker allowed himself a grim smile. The Dominion had given them a choice between submission and extinction. But humanity was about to give them a third option. Defiance. And if there was one thing humans excelled at, it was defying the impossible. The clock was ticking, and humanity's greatest challenge, and perhaps its finest hour, was about to begin. In the 24 hours following the Dominion's ultimatum, Earth changed more than it had in the past century. Old enemies became allies as nations realized that human survival depended on working together. The United Earth Defense Force headquarters transformed into a bustling command center, with scientists, military leaders, and engineers from every corner of the globe working side by side. Dr. Anna Roberts hadn't slept since the alien transmission. The lead researcher at the Global Technology Institute stared at her computer screen, surrounded by empty coffee cups and scattered notes. She had been analyzing the data from the Dominion's transmission when she noticed something odd. "Admiral Walker," she called out as the military leader passed by her workstation. "Look at this pattern in their communication signal." Walker stopped, leaning over her shoulder to study the complex waves on her screen. "What am I looking at, Doctor?" "Their entire transmission system runs on crystalline computing," she explained, pulling up more data. "It's incredibly advanced, yes, but it's also uniform. Every signal we've detected from their ships uses the exact same pattern. They've standardized everything." Walker's eyes narrowed. "And that's important because uniform systems have uniform weaknesses," she said, a small smile forming on her tired face. "Give me a team and 3 days. I think we can create a quantum virus that could disrupt their entire network." Across the room, military strategist Thomas Green was having his own breakthrough. Surrounded by historical military texts and modern combat simulations, he saw what everyone else had missed. "The Dominion's too perfect," he announced during the emergency strategy meeting. "Look at their tactics, their technology, everything's advanced, everything's standardized. But that's not how warfare really works." He pulled up footage from human military history. The most successful armies in history didn't win just because they had better technology. They won because they could adapt. Because they could use whatever worked, even if it seemed primitive. Green pointed to their own military assets. "We've got everything from old radio systems to quantum computers. The Dominion probably thinks that's a weakness. But what if it's actually our strength?" The next 3 weeks passed in a blur of activity. Underground bases were converted into manufacturing centers. Old military equipment was pulled out of storage and modified. Dr. Roberts and her team worked tirelessly on their quantum virus, while Green developed strategies that combined Earth's varied technologies into something unprecedented. They worked against time, against doubt, and against fear itself. Every day, more Dominion ships appeared in the outer solar system, a constant reminder of the approaching deadline. 28 days after the ultimatum, Admiral Walker called Earth's leaders together for a final briefing. "The Dominion thinks they're facing a primitive species with primitive technology," he began, looking around the room. "They expect us to either submit, or fight a conventional war that we can't win. But that's not what they're going to get. Dr. Roberts stepped forward. The quantum virus is ready. Once deployed, it should disrupt their crystalline computing networks. Not permanently, but enough to cause chaos in their systems. And while their advanced technology is compromised, Green added, we hit them with everything we've got. Old radio-guided missiles that their modern defenses can't detect. Analog systems they can't hack. Tactics they won't expect, because they're too primitive to consider. Walker nodded. 2 days from now, the Dominion will arrive, expecting to find a broken, submissive Earth, or a feeble resistance they can crush easily. He smiled grimly. Instead, they're going to find out why you should never corner a species that turned being stubborn into an art form. As the meeting ended and final preparations began, Walker looked out at the night sky. Somewhere up there, the Dominion fleet was approaching, confident in their superiority. They didn't realize that humanity's greatest strength wasn't in its technology or its weapons, but in its endless capacity to surprise. In 48 hours, the Dominion would learn that lesson the hard way. The Dominion fleet appeared exactly when they said they would. 500 massive warships emerged from faster-than-light travel, their metallic hulls gleaming in the sun's light. They formed a perfect attack pattern above Earth's atmosphere, a display of power meant to terrify humanity into submission. In the Earth Defense Force Command Center, Admiral Walker watched the enemy fleet through the main screen. Time to show them what humanity can do, he said quietly. Dr. Roberts, is your team ready? Dr. Roberts nodded, her fingers hovering over her keyboard. Quantum virus is prepared for deployment. We just need them to open communications. She didn't have to wait long. The main screen flickered, and the High Commander's metallic face appeared. Your time has expired, the alien leader announced. What is your answer? Walker stepped forward. Before we respond, we're transmitting a small gift. A token of Earth's appreciation. Dr. Roberts pressed a key, sending the quantum virus hidden within a simple transmission signal. On the screen, the High Commander's image flickered slightly, the only sign that the virus had begun its work. Your primitive attempts at diplomacy - the High Commander stopped mid-sentence as warning alarms began blaring through their fleet. Their perfect formation started to break apart as ship after ship lost control of their advanced systems. Now! Walker commanded. Around the world, humanity's forces sprang into action. Old nuclear submarines, their launching systems converted to use simple radio signals, fired their modified missiles. World War II radar stations, restored and hidden, began tracking enemy movements using frequencies the Dominion's advanced sensors ignored. The Dominion fleet, expecting to face modern weapons they could easily counter, found themselves under attack from directions their computers couldn't predict. Their ships' perfect defensive screens, designed to stop energy weapons and modern explosives, couldn't detect the crude but effective rockets heading their way. Their formation is breaking, Green reported, watching the tactical display. Just as we predicted. They don't know how to handle multiple types of attacks at once. Their responses are too standardized. The first wave of missiles struck home. 20 Dominion ships erupted in flames, their crews never expecting to be hit by weapons they considered obsolete. More vessels spun out of control, their crystalline computers scrambled by the quantum virus. But the Dominion wasn't defeated yet. Their remaining ships be ## Part 3. The Dominion fleet appeared exactly when they said they would. 500 massive warships emerged from faster-than-light travel, their metallic hulls gleaming in the sun's light. They formed a perfect attack pattern above Earth's atmosphere, a display of power meant to terrify humanity into submission. In the Earth Defense Force Command Center, Admiral Walker watched the enemy fleet through the main screen. Time to show them what humanity can do, he said quietly. Dr. Roberts, is your team ready? Dr. Roberts nodded, her fingers hovering over her keyboard. Quantum virus is prepared for deployment. We just need them to open communications. She didn't have to wait long. The main screen flickered, and the High Commander's metallic face appeared. "Your time has expired," the alien leader announced. "What is your answer?" Walker stepped forward. "Before we respond, we're transmitting a small gift. A token of Earth's appreciation." Dr. Roberts pressed a key, sending the quantum virus hidden within a simple transmission signal. On the screen, the High Commander's image flickered slightly, the only sign that the virus had begun its work. "Your primitive attempts at diplomacy " the High Commander stopped mid-sentence as warning alarms began blaring through their fleet. Their perfect formation started to break apart as ship after ship lost control of their advanced systems. "Now!" Walker commanded. Around the world, humanity's forces sprang into action. Old nuclear submarines, their launching systems converted to use simple radio signals, fired their modified missiles. World War II radar stations, restored and hidden, began tracking enemy movements using frequencies the Dominion's advanced sensors ignored. The Dominion fleet, expecting to face modern weapons they could easily counter, found themselves under attack from directions their computers couldn't predict. Their ships' perfect defensive screens, designed to stop energy weapons and modern explosives, couldn't detect the crude but effective rockets heading their way. "Their formation is breaking," Green reported, watching the tactical display. "Just as we predicted. They don't know how to handle multiple types of attacks at once. Their responses are too standardized." The first wave of missiles struck home. 20 Dominion ships erupted in flames, their crews never expecting to be hit by weapons they considered obsolete. More vessels spun out of control, their crystalline computers scrambled by the quantum virus. But the Dominion wasn't defeated yet. Their remaining ships began firing energy weapons at Earth, trying to overwhelm human defenses through sheer power. "Activate the mirror defense," Walker ordered. Thousands of small satellites, launched in secret over the past month, deployed simple mirror surfaces. The Dominion's energy weapons reflected back at their own ships, causing even more chaos in their ranks. "Sir," a technician called out. "We're detecting enemy drop ships heading for the surface." Walker smiled. "Right on schedule. General Ross, your turn." Around the globe, hidden bunkers opened. But instead of modern tanks or aircraft, they released thousands of modified civilian vehicles. Cars fitted with old-style weapons. Trucks carrying simple but effective rocket launchers. Even crop dusters armed with electronic disruption devices. All powered by basic engines that the Dominion's advanced targeting systems couldn't properly track. The battle raged for 6 hours. The Dominion's superior technology, crippled by the virus and confused by humanity's mix of old and new weapons, proved less effective with each passing minute. Their rigid battle formations fell apart against attacks that came from every direction, using methods their combat computers couldn't categorize. When the dust settled, over half the Dominion fleet was destroyed or disabled. The remaining ships retreated in disarray, their perfect order shattered. 2 weeks after Earth's first victory, Dr. Roberts made another breakthrough. She hadn't left her lab for days, studying the captured Dominion ships that had crashed during the battle. What she found changed everything. "Look at this," she told Admiral Walker, pointing to a complex diagram on her screen. "The Dominion doesn't just use similar technology in their ships. They use the same communication network across their entire empire. Every planet, every fleet, every base, they're all connected." Walker's eyes widened as he understood. "So if we could spread your quantum virus through their main network, we could disrupt their control over everything," she finished with a smile. "And I know exactly how to do it." Meanwhile, in the captured Dominion ships, human engineers made their own discoveries. They found weaknesses in the alien power systems, flaws in their weapon designs. Every vulnerability was analyzed, every advantage exploited. As the days turned into weeks, Earth's defenses grew stronger. New hybrid technologies emerged, blending the best of human ingenuity with captured alien tech. Makeshift factories churned out unprecedented weapons, while hacked Dominion systems provided real-time intelligence on the enemy's movements. But the greatest weapon of all was information. Using the quantum virus as a base, Dr. Roberts and her team developed a way to infiltrate the Dominion's communication network. Not just to disrupt it, but to use it against them. "We can feed them false information," she explained to the War Council. "Make them see fleets where there are none. Hide our real forces until it's too late. Turn their own network into a liability." It was a daring plan, one that required precise timing and flawless execution. But if it worked, it could change the course of the war. 3 months after the first battle, the Dominion returned. This time, there was no ultimatum, no demand for surrender. 1,000 ships strong, they came to crush the defiant humans once and for all. But Earth was ready. As the enemy fleet entered the solar system, Dr. Roberts' team unleashed their new weapon. False data flooded the Dominion network, causing confusion and disarray. Ships broke formation, chasing phantoms and firing on empty space. And in that chaos, Earth struck. A swarm of small, agile ships, piloted by humans and powered by hybrid tech, darted through the Dominion fleet. They struck at critical systems, exploiting weaknesses discovered in the captured ships. Larger vessels, armed with powerful new weapons, followed close behind, hitting the enemy where they were most vulnerable. On the ground, modified vehicles and weapons proved their worth once again. The Dominion's ground forces, expecting an easy victory, found themselves outmaneuvered by the very primitive technology they had dismissed. In orbit, a team of hackers, led by Dr. Roberts, worked furiously to maintain control of the Dominion's network. Every time the enemy tried to adapt, they were met with a new virus, a new deception, a new trick learned from their own technology. The battle was fierce, the losses heavy on both sides. But for every human ship that fell, 3 Dominion vessels were destroyed. For every city block that crumbled, an entire enemy battalion was annihilated. After 2 days of non-stop fighting, the Dominion fleet finally broke. Battered and broken, the remaining ships fled, leaving behind a trail of wreckage and a clear message: Earth would not be conquered. In the aftermath of the battle, as the world began to rebuild, Admiral Walker and his team knew that this was still not the end. The Dominion would return, with even greater numbers and even more advanced technology. But they also knew that humanity would be ready. With each battle, they grew stronger, wiser, more united. With each victory, they proved that the human spirit was more powerful than any weapon, more resilient than any armor. The war was far from over. But one thing was certain: the Dominion had made a grave mistake in underestimating humanity. And they would pay for that mistake, no matter how long it took or how high the cost. For now, Earth celebrated. And prepared for the battles to come. In the years that followed, the war between Earth and the Dominion raged across the stars. Battles were won and lost, heroes rose and fell, worlds burned and were reborn from the ashes. Humanity learned, adapted, and innovated at a staggering pace. The hybrid technologies born from the fusion of human ingenuity and captured Dominion tech evolved into something new, something uniquely Earth's own. Ships that could outmaneuver the swiftest Dominion fighters. Weapons that could pierce the strongest alien shields. Defenses that could withstand the most brutal assaults. And at the heart of it all was the indomitable human spirit. The refusal to surrender, the will to fight on against impossible odds, the capacity to hope in the face of utter darkness. It was this spirit that inspired other races, other worlds that had long suffered under the Dominion's rule. Whispers of Earth's defiance spread like wildfire through the oppressed corners of the galaxy. Secret alliances were forged, rebellions kindled, until what had begun as a lone planet struggle became a galaxy-wide revolution. The Dominion fought back with all the might of 1,000 conquered worlds. But they found themselves facing not just one stubborn species, but a united front of races, each bringing their own strengths, their own secrets, to the fight. And at the forefront of this alliance was Earth. No longer the primitive upstart, but a beacon of freedom, a symbol of hope for all those who dreamed of breaking their chains. The war reached its climax in the skies above the Dominion's homeworld. A final, desperate battle, where the fate of the galaxy would be decided. Earth's fleet, now a patchwork of 100 different races, technologies and tactics, faced off against the full might of the Dominion's armada. At the head of the fleet, in the very ship from which the first shot of the war had been fired, stood Admiral Walker. Older now, scarred by 100 battles, but with eyes still blazing with the same defiant fire. The battle was chaos incarnate. Ships dancing and dying in the void, weapons fire painting the stars in shades of destruction. Boarding parties clashing in the broken hulls of crippled vessels, AIs dueling in the tangled webs of hacked systems. But amidst the chaos, a pattern emerged. The Dominion's ships, for all their power, were still bound by the rigid thinking that had been their undoing from the start. They couldn't adapt to the fluid, unpredictable tactics of the Allied fleet. They couldn't match the sheer determination of beings fighting not for conquest, but for their very right to exist. One by one, the Dominion's ships fell. Their defenses cracked, their weapons silenced, until at last, only the High Commander's vessel remained. Aboard that ship, in a chamber that had once pulsed with the power to enslave worlds, the High Commander faced Admiral Walker. The two adversaries stared at each other across a gulf of years and light years, a gulf filled with the memories of countless battles. "You have come far, human," the High Commander said, its voice still carrying that same artificial undertone from so long ago. "Further than I ever thought your species could. But it ends here. Surrender, and your world may yet survive as part of the Dominion." Walker smiled, a smile that held a lifetime of struggle and triumph. "You still don't understand, do you? All these years, all these battles, and you still haven't learned the most important thing about humanity." The High Commander tilted its head. "And what is that?" "We don't know how to surrender. Not to you. Not to anyone." With those words, Walker gave the signal. And the Allied fleet unleashed its final weapon. Not a missile or a beam, but a pulse of pure data. The culmination of years of research, of hacking and reverse engineering, a virus unlike any the Dominion had ever seen. It swept through the Dominion's network like a wildfire, overloading systems, rewriting code, turning the very foundations of their empire against them. The High Commander's ship convulsed as if struck by a physical blow. Around it, the last remnants of the Dominion's fleet went dark, their systems crashing, their crews erupting into chaos. And across the galaxy, on 100 worlds, 1 billion slaves looked up as the chains that had bound them for so long suddenly fell away. In the heart of his dying ship, the High Commander looked at Walker with something almost like respect. "You have won, human. You and your impossible species. The Dominion is no more." Walker nodded, his face a mix of triumph and exhaustion. "We didn't want this war. But when you pushed us, when you threatened our very right to exist, you left us no choice." He turned to look out at the stars, at the Allied ships now filling the void, each a testament to the power of unity in the face of tyranny. "Remember this moment. Remember what happens when the oppressed stand together. Remember the day that humanity, and all the free races of the galaxy, said no more." With those words, the final battle ended. The war that had begun with one world's defiance had ended with a galaxy's liberation. There would be much to rebuild, much to heal. Scars that would take generations to fade. But for now, there was victory. There was hope. And in the skies above 100 worlds, there was the sound of celebration as the news spread like starlight: the Dominion had fallen. The galaxy was free. And leading the charge, a shining beacon of what courage and determination could achieve, was a little blue planet called Earth. The end.